What's up, everybody? I'm James. Welcome to Mechanical Mayhem, and welcome to part 28 of the Mechwarrior 5 Clan story-driven campaign playthrough, where you listen to all of the cutscenes and watch them and listen to the banter and commentate while utilizing stock mechs only, of which hero mechs are allowed, but no custom configurations. This is part 28, and we are, yes, still on Courchevel. We are dealing with the 5th ALAG forces on Courchevel, and we are forcing them out into the open, and we are trying to cripple and crush their forces before the invasion force returns to the inner sphere. Remember, after the death of Leo Showers, almost all blood-named warriors return to the clan homeworlds for the election of a new Ilkhan, and in preparation for the next stage of the invasion after that. And with that having been decided, we are now having them return. But it takes time to go from the homeworlds to here. So we're trying to deal with this incursion by the 5th ALAG before they return. So strap into your mech and prepare for drop. Alright, it's getting brutal up in here.
Cobalt, the Watch has finished its evaluation of the dropship your star secured at the anthill. They have revealed that these mystery raiders are the 5th Amphibian Light Assault known Combine Associates. Demi-Presenter, enlighten us on who these amphibians are.
The 5th Alag are mercenaries that fell deep into debt during the First Succession War, becoming permanently indentured to the Combine state. For the past few centuries, they have been a dumping ground for other mercs that have become indebted to House Kurita in one way or another.
I thought the Combine forbade the use of mercenaries after what happened with the Wolf's Dragoons.
They do, but they willingly look the other way with the Alag, since they are indentured to the state. We at Comstar were even able to leverage this loophole during the War of 3039 to supplement the unit with our own assets during the war.
So, they are hypocrites.
Some might say. Although officially, the Combine claim that the Alag were grandfathered in before Takashi Kurita's decree forbidding mercenaries. Comstar has learned that their longtime commander, General Kent Gerber, was pulled out of retirement to retake command from his less experienced successor, Taisa Helen Cassidy. We also believe that they are currently being harbored by the residents of a coastal city known as Saint-Tropez, although where in the city, we do not know.
Then we will find out. By force. Cobalt, you will go to Saint-Tropez and demand answers of these laborers. If they resist, then the whole city shall be treated as enemy combatants aiding and abetting a hostile power. Do I make myself clear?
Neg, Star Colonel, from what I see here, this town is a coastal shipping center. Vital infrastructure in the eyes of the clan.
If the laborers who live there are loyal to the clan and give the ALAG up willingly, you will do what you can to preserve vital clan infrastructure. If not, you will treat them as traitors. Graf?
Star Colonel.
Alrighty. So this is going to be a brutal mission in terms of the context of it. And as far as difficulty go, it's definitely a slog, so you want to be better than I am and definitely take it a little bit slower and churn through the enemy at range as fast as possible. But we are going to try and flesh out the ALAG, of which, of course, Comstar knows about. Of course, that's why you don't trust them. Sure, we didn't really know who we were fighting at first glance, but I feel like they had known more than they were letting on, as Comstar tends to do anyway. I do like the mentioning of the War of 3039 because we get to participate in that in Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries DLC. We are a mercenary unit brought in by Comstar into the 5th ALAG, to temporarily fight there. So it kind of references you playing Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries at DLC, which is also referencing lore in the Battletech setting anyways, which is pretty cool. So, the 5th ALAG are an interesting unit, right? Because they start off as mercenaries in the very beginning. The First Succession War, they were heavily indebted to Draconis Combine, and so they couldn't pay it and became an indentured fighting force to the Draconis Combine, more or less. And that's where a bunch of other mercenaries that kind of reel in and are able to keep hold of end up. So it's kind of a hodgepodge force of different mercenary groups coming together to be a military style of force. So I find it kind of neat. Let So let's take a moment real quick and acknowledge that I'm an executioner before we move any further as we try to get the citizens to give up the 5th ALAG. The executioner is a pretty cool mech, as we've had it for several missions now. This is the first time I'm piloting it in the playthrough. This is not its primary configuration. Its primary configuration has a Gauss rifle, or a Gauss rifle, whatever you want to say. I forget which Omnipod set this is, but it is an official one. It is a stock one, I should say. It has a lot of lasers. It has a large pulse laser, it has 3 medium pulse lasers, it has 5 small pulse lasers, and an ER small laser. It also has 2 SRM-6s. So it has pretty good offensive firepower, and for all what it has, is actually pretty heat efficient as well. So we're able to really continually batter the enemy. And there's Kent Gerber being all Gerbery and in his typical abrasive manner, which is pretty cool. We've seen this firstly in Mercenaries, I believe with the same voice actor, which is pretty cool. So we are trying to not destroy infrastructure, but Gerber is forcing our hand. Now, the whole reasoning behind it, I find a little odd, personally. I get it, right? Edo, you don't just forget about something like Edo overnight. And while it's been like a year, it's definitely still very fresh in the minds of all Draconis Combine, even the minds of Smoke Jaguar and the other clans. So I totally get it. There you saw the pretty decent heat effectiveness. I fired off all my laser equipment and we were pretty decently heat efficient. As you saw earlier, I utilized Mask to run here really fast, and we also have Jump Jets. So this is an assault mech that is pretty capable in maneuvering and as well as firepower. And we'll come back to that once I go over my little thought process in terms of what's going on here. So we have had this planet in Smoke Jaguar control for some time now, for a decent amount of time, all things considered. We've been here, it's been 6 months more or less since the planetary militia was dismantled, and we've been in firm control of the planet. We didn't raise cities to the ground. We didn't do anything aside from have them, do their thing for the clan now. So, yeah, Edo was unfortunate, and it sucked that it happened, for sure. But even Clan Smoke Jaguar didn't like the fact that it happened. But that was really the only time that happened amongst all of Clandom. When you think about it, and we've been in control of plenty of planets thus far. This isn't the second planet Smoke Jaguar has under their control, by the way. This is like the 20-something. So, I just feel like, yeah, Edo is a very big deal. But I think really the big deal is Gerber forcing this to happen by refusing and kind of using this as a shield. Which kind of gets brought up, but still. So, what we have going on here is definitely Perez, I feel, being a bit unhinged at this point. He is a brutal leader and a brutal kind of manager of resources, if you will, in this capacity, right? This is vital infrastructure that we're just laying waste to. And he's going to justify it because they are traitors. You're aiding and abetting the enemy, so you are a traitor. And I totally get that concept. Honestly, when you think about it in the raw simplicity of it, they are. But this doesn't help the look for Clan Smoke Jaguar either. This is the one time that I really feel in terms of the campaigns that I agree with like the Ezra's sentiment on the matter. Although we will see at the end of this mission a cutscene, and I don't really agree with what Ezra's talking about there. That was one heck of a dive that Jägermech took before having his engine go critical. So, in any case, we have a lot of tonnage to fight because now they're coming out, right? They forced our hands, so we're forcing theirs, as it were. Because in order to finish off this mission, we're going to basically take out as many of the ALAG forces as we can, and we got to force them into the open. So we're basically flushing them out. This is a very pragmatic view of handling the situation. kind of like what was said in, what was it, The Dark Knight? You know, there's a gem stealer, so we, you know, that would hide in the forest. So we burned the forest down. That little like speech thingy from, you know, in that movie. So this is this very similar kind of concept, right? And as Mia just said, the city is suffering for their selfishness because yeah, Edo happened, and Draconis Combine will never forget that, and people, you know, will live in fear of that. But we also have proven ourselves past that. We lost at Walcott. We didn't try to retake the world, and they were given battle armor and mechs as a part of the, as that was part of the patrol, right? They modified the patrol, and we accepted that. So we lost, and we honored that. We haven't been back to Walcott, and we gave them their that, you know, that stuff. So yeah, Edo happened, and that's, you know, really unfortunate. But we also have had other things happen that showcase Smoke Jaguar and the way the clans are, and I just think it's a case of leveraging and leaning on what you want to further your own specific goals and ends. And in this case, it is furthering the idea of fighting back against Clan Smoke Jaguar, because if you don't, you're gonna die. And that simply isn't the case. That was a one-off instance. There's been plenty of other planets that showcase the contrary. But as Yuichi kind of said, the ALAG kind of utilized things to further their own goals and their own agenda, which is what's going on here. So, unfortunately, we have to raise the city to the ground. Because we are trying to just fight the enemy, and if we have to burn the city to the ground to do so, then we're burning this industrial facility to the ground to do so. It's a very extreme methodology to do. I mean, these mechs are here. They clearly could come out in open combat, but instead they are forcing our hand. So that's the situation. You could say that's just trying to justify what you're doing, but that's exactly what we're doing. So in any case, with that said, do be careful. I expose the rear of my mech to fire far too often, and you'll notice that I'll have structural damage, but the front armor is still intact. That's because I took hits in the back. You want to be careful here. Mechs kind of are in a half moon or a crescent shape, I should say, when they attack you, so you can get hit from angles if you kind of get into the middle and spin around like I'm doing. So what I would recommend doing is not running into the middle like I did and turn around everywhere, but rather kind of take one corner and swing around. But I didn't do that, and I paid for it. But it's okay because it still has a front armor. The front armor is battered, but it's there, and the fact that it's there is all the more reason why I try to keep mechs focus on my star, or try to keep my front exposed to the enemy. But I will not do that perfectly throughout the rest of this mission. It's okay though. We are approaching some repair bays. But as you can see, this is quite a slog. And now we're dealing with aircraft, particularly in the form of Igors that are actually quite dangerous. Quad AC-2s, there's nothing to sneeze at. That's pretty decent firepower for chewing through armor not slowly, but chewing through armor pretty effectively. So now that we've dealt with the enemy forces in this area, we are going to continue destroying the facility. This is where, you know, I would agree that Perez is going too far. So we flushed out the enemy in this particular area. We dealt with them. There's no reason to destroy the rest of the facilities. Instead, elementals should come in and round up those that were sympathizers and deal with them and keep the facility intact. But instead, we are taking the more extreme route because we do things in the form of extremes here in Clan Smoke Jaguar, and amongst the kind of clans in a generalistic sense overall. Now, just like in Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries, destroying a facility is kind of annoying because, like, you get... It's hard to tell exactly how much a percentage you're doing by destroying one particular building or damaging another section of a building, whatever else. So it takes a while, and it's kind of a nuisance. But, you know, it happens quick enough when you have 5 mechs stomping through everything. Yeah, nothing really to feel good about here. We're more so punishing and setting an example, which is unfortunate. But I do like the fact that Jaden and the Star are trying to avoid this. He's constantly got Yuichi on open comm, seeing if anybody's going to reply to us. But it seems like the ALAG were able to coerce this entire facility into fearing us and supporting them. I say coerce. I mean, we did just take over this planet. I'm sure if the citizens were given a chance in certain areas to go, hey, you go back to the way of life you know, if you support us, that they would probably be inclined to do so, even though they just were taken over. But, you know, at the same time, when you have months of time in which nothing was going on that would showcase us coming in to destroy their homes and everything, it does feel a bit odd that that all of a sudden the fifth ALAG can spur up such resistance like this. And like was said, this isn't the way to do things, but the whole reason Perez is doing it is because he believes the resistance is a plague, right? Like, it's not good to have this resistance here. So we gotta deal with it before it becomes more spread. And I get that, but I do feel like there's a more effective way to do it to preserve infrastructure myself. So I agree with the idea this is kind of extreme, but I don't agree exactly with how the ALAG are going about it, nor do I agree personally with the way the story is telling things, what's going to come post this mission in a cutscene. Anyways, I am really bad at remembering to get these salvage components, so luckily, utilizing the Executioner, I can get there pretty quick and take care of it. So now we have an Orion to deal with. There's going to be a Awesome as well, and probably a Shadowhawk, I believe. So we don't want to get too close. We want to kind of back it up, draw them out towards us, which is why I told them to go to basically defend something further back, and they're going to reverse and do that. Oh, it's a Wolverine. It is a Shadowhawk. There's a Shadowhawk, there's a Wolverine, there's an Orion, and there should be an Awesome. But it's not a PPC Awesome, it's an LRM Awesome, which isn't as awesome as a PPC Awesome, but it's still awesome. Know what I mean? You know what I mean. Anyways, here I expose my blowing through rear armor, take some extra hits, unfortunately, but I wanted to utilize Mask to really get over here faster than just reversing. Also, I wasn't sure I was going to run into the mountain, so that's why I did that. But anyways, the Executioner has Mask and Jump Jets, like I said earlier in this mission, and really I feel, I have been saying how the Executioner center torso is a bit thin in terms of armor. I do feel like of all the mechs really in the game, not just assault mechs, but mechs in the game, the Executioner is a really good example of a mech that is really of benefit for players to use over the AI. The AI will use jump jets here and there, not as much as you might use them yourself. I never really noticed them using Mask personally, so I don't know if they do or not. I don't think so. And they don't jump around nearly as often as you can, and they don't necessarily move around as much as players can while fighting, because we know staying mobile helps you stay alive. So, as such, they take more hits than when they are being focused on. They're going to take a bit more hits than a player might, because they're moving more less than a player. But a player is focused on more, so it's a trade-off. But the point is that in the hands of a player, you can make use of the Mask and the jump jets either together or just in conjunction with one another. You know, Mask and jump jets, or jump jet and Mask, or Mask and then back off and Mask again, whatever the case is, and really play to the strength of this mech, which is maneuverability, more so than AI. So, yeah, we may be lacking in armor in the center torso, and yeah, I do feel it should get beefed up a little bit for, you know, video game purposes, but we have a lot of maneuverability to our advantage here. And when you start remembering that and try to make use of and maximize the Executioner's maneuverability, it really does kind of help make up for the center torso armor being a little thin. We're still going to take plenty of damage here in this mission, but I wanted to showcase the Executioner in a playthrough mission at least once, and showcase a Omnipod set I really like, which is this one here. Lots of laser firepower. What I like about it is lots of laser firepower that's fast cycling, decent range still, especially if you're going to research pulse laser range and things of that nature. And really heat efficient. Yeah, we're standing in water right now, but even without that, I can spam the fire a bit, especially when things get close. And as things get closer, the amount of punishment they take just goes up and up and up. And then we have SRM6s, two of them, to really deliver decent punch. Don't count out SRM6s. They provide pretty decent punch once things get in range of it. So we're still destroying the facilities. I feel like at this juncture, we don't need to. I feel like we flush them out. I mean, some mission-wise in terms of programming, there's a flag, I guess, for destroying stuff for enemies to spawn in. But if you think about it in terms of a lore sense of it, we've already proven we're going to level this area. I feel like the ALAG have kind of been forced out. So I feel like we need to do very little destruction and more so just show up and they will be forced to fight us. But that doesn't... that was a cockpit kill. Very, very nice. But that doesn't work well for, like, I guess, mission program or whatever. So, nope, we gotta destroy everything. So, what is nice is that this mission does eventually put us in water for, like, the last half of it, just about. A little bit less than half, last third of it, let's just say, to be safe. So, if you are looking to do a custom builds or you are looking to take certain configurations, you can go heat heavy on your builds. Like, builds a little spicy in the heat department. If you're able to conserve your mechs and your stars mechs and play carefully up to this point, you're going to be able to really leverage your mech's firepower without worry of heat, really, because you're going to be able to basically spend the rest of the mission in water for enhanced cooling. So definitely take that into consideration and use it to your advantage. So Stalker, Banshee, Assault Mechs, Orion, Jaeger Mechs or Heavy Mechs, Aircraft, Skimmers. The VTOLs are annoying, but always keep an eye out for Igors. They're going to be the most dangerous. I don't know if we see double AC-10 Igors in clans. We saw them in Mercenaries. I don't know if we see them here, but quad AC-2s, in my opinion, are even more dangerous because they can hit you from longer range. And there's 4 of them. They have fast shooting times. They can really help pick apart your armor. And when they come in groups, it can be really dangerous, so be careful. So that's the Warhammer. We have a Warhammer and I believe a Rifleman. I would definitely have the Star prioritize the Warhammer. You know, it has PPCs. That's always dangerous. And then depending upon how the Star's doing and how your armor and your Star's armor is doing, I would either focus fire the Warhammer with them or have them change the Rifleman and then you finish off the Warhammer. It's up to you. But they're not the most heavily armored mechs to deal with, but their firepower is definitely pretty decent. So we're getting hit by missiles here, which I believe... I forget what it comes from. It's either a turret or like a harasser or something. I think it's a turret. Yeah. Pretty decent turret too. So you definitely want to take care of these turrets as best you can, as fast you can, because in this late game for this campaign, the turrets get beefier and the vehicles get beefier in terms of their equipment department. They're typically just as easy to take out, but you go from turrets having like a medium laser or a small laser, or, you know, 2 SRM6s having like a bunch of AC2s or whatever else. So definitely want to try and take care of that. So here we have a bunch of flyers coming in, more of the Igors, which I think just blew themselves up somehow. I don't know what happened there, but or it was just shot up and blew up. I'm not exactly sure, but we'll take it. As you can see, we have more facilities to destroy, but we are in the water, so we can really do this pretty effectively. Ezra's correct, this isn't right, but he's also a bit whiny in it. I don't know. I think Ezra, after Liam's death, Ezra really took a turn for the worst, in my opinion. But both make a point. This is not right, but we also don't have much of a choice. The Armada is going to return. Then we won't have to deal with Perez anymore. I think this is an interesting step in the kind of the growth of this star and the growth of these warriors. Less so Naomi. She's older than the rest, but your star is pretty young, all things considered. And this kind of is a coming of age lesson, just like losing Liam was, right? So I do like that aspect of the storytelling of this. Is that it's not, we're not just, yeah, let's do it. It's more so like, oh, we're maturing a bit as a fighting force, and we understand that this is bad, and as part of clan education is that destroying infrastructure equals bad. So here we go. So here's another full lance hot dropped into us, which can be pretty dangerous, especially if your armor is like mine and your structure is like mine. So you really want to kind of focus on certain mechs, such as, hunchbacks. So I believe I have my star focusing on the grasshopper. I think I'm taking out. I think that's a Wolverine. I could be wrong. I'm taking it out anyway, so it doesn't matter. There's an awesome to worry about. We took out the hunchback, and that's what's important. So that awesome is dangerous because it has PPCs and it's in the water, but we can just focus fire it down. Getting caught in an engine kill, as I call it, is also kind of dangerous when your armor and structure is like mine. And we can see Mia is also got exposed structure, but on an arm, which isn't good, but it's not outright destruction of your mech if it fails. Luckily, I do know that we are approaching a repair facility, so all we need to do is really just pay attention to turrets and any other vehicle assets while we destroy this and basically trigger the facility's repair bay powering up for us to use. So now we're up on land, quote unquote. We're not in the water or on the dock, as it were, the pier, whatever you want to call it. So your heat will be more of a factor, but that's okay. I'm not just running through because I don't want to get caught out by a turret without realizing it, kind of like that one. So whatever we're doing, I'm basically trying to let them destroy facilities while I take care of turrets and facilities at the same time. So there's the repair bay. It's up. I'm going to have Mia go to it now, and I'm basically going to shadow a little bit. I'm going to maneuver at the same time to deal with turrets. Yeah, there it is. So we're going to deal with that. Luckily, the turrets are kind of hit or miss. Sometimes they'll just be on it to fire constantly. Other times, they barely fire. So there's that. And with that being the case, we are halfway through with this facility. This is the last facility to destroy. Once we do that, we'll be able to basically deal with the last round of enemy mechs, which is why I want to get Mia repaired, because I don't want her to lose that arm. Luckily, we can really make use of range to our advantage. There's a lot of open space here, so that's definitely very good. But yeah, I like this mission in the variety of going from like inland to coast there. Well, not really inland, but going from land to basically the coastline. I like the kind of growth of the star, as it were, a little bit. I like the exposition within about why we're doing this and the conflict of thought and belief in doing this. It also helps kind of set the stage for things to come in the story, which is neat. But it is definitely brutal. This is the one case, even more so than Edo, that I feel Perez really, where Perez really kind of crosses the line. Because Edo was definitely not good, but I find Edo was more of a case of a really bad example, or really big example of what happens when tempers flare. But this is calculated. There is no in the heat of the moment of pure anger and annoyance, right? This is something that is basically inexcusable as a concept because it's not coming on the fly. I like how our, Jaden's like, we could have avoided this if you just came out and fight us, but you're forcing us to do this and then showing up. Gerber makes interesting points, but at the same time, it's also like, you literally forced us to do this. So I do like Gerber's statements here. We are young, especially in comparison to Gerber, but I think it's also a different view of a different viewpoint, right? We have different beliefs and viewpoints from different cultural groups here. We have, Innisphere, and we have clans. We have Gerber and his forces of the Ilag versus Clan Smoke Jaguar and a young Star. So we are definitely young in comparison, but I think we make the better point where like all of this needless destruction could have been avoided if you just fought us. Just fight us like everybody else has, and we take you or we don't take you. That's how it works. I do feel like the concept of us just wanting to burn things into the ground that Gerber just brought up is more so forcing our hand. I think the inner sphere, I think both sides are not used to fighting the other side, right? The inner sphere is used to doing certain tactics to then force a whole new approach, and the clans are used to just straight up fighting them until they stop fighting you. Which sounds silly to say in this context, but like where Innisphere might recalculate their strategy to take a city, the clans will just bulldoze into it more or less. And I think what we're seeing here is the butting of heads of ideology and belief, and the destruction that happens because of it. But we wouldn't have destroyed this facility if they just come out and fought us, but they wouldn't come out and fight us, so we had to destroy the facility. And we weren't going to pull our punches, because we don't do that. Because we're true-born warriors. We don't pull our punches. So, we just heard that Ezra wants to talk to us after the debrief, so you can expect a cutscene inbound after a little bit of post-mission report. Almost have access to the direwolf. Almost.
You wanted to talk?
Yeah.
Why here?
We have to do something about him.
Who? Perez?
Who else?
Ezra until Star Colonel Wimmer returns.
Jaden. He is getting worse. The Raiders are testing his patience. Because of him, everyone is getting more aggressive and indifferent to the civvies, just like Turtle Bay.
He is a problem, but our options are limited. If you have a suggestion, I'm willing to hear it.
Challenge him. Or at least one of his Star Captain lackeys.
No.
Why not? You stood up to Star Colonel Wimmer, on Mia's behalf.
That was different, and you know it. Like it or not, he was left in charge. And that position has made him very popular with a lot of people.
We all keep waiting for someone else to act, but no one does.
I will not challenge him when he has that much of a power base. Even if I win, I will fight a never-ending chain of reprisals from his supporters.
Well, Perez is getting bolder by the day. How much longer till he orders another massacre?
Oh, Ezra!
No! You know I am right.
It doesn't matter. I already stuck my neck out for the sake of our star and lost. I will not destroy our reputation to pick a fight with every galaxy in the OZ. That will not help anyone.
Jaden. I cannot take part in another Edo. We were supposed to bring vengeance down on the tyrants, not join their ranks. That is not the way of the clans.
I do not know what else I can say to you, Ez. I have no love for Perez or what he's doing here in the OZ. But I will not throw away our future by challenging him. I'm sorry. But keep looking. I may not see a way out of this. Perhaps you can.
Oh, Jaden. Poor choice of words. But, you know, he's right. I get it. I get Ezra's sentiment, right? Perez is getting bolder, worse, more like kind of just quick to act by the day, it seems like. But I don't think people are getting more indifferent towards the civilians. And I don't necessarily think that it's a case of, joining the ranks of tyrants. When it comes right down to it, the clans are outsiders invading the inner sphere and changing their very way of life, right? As we go through all the typical post-mission stuff here. So it doesn't matter how non-tyrant you want to be. You're going to come across like that. Yeah, they didn't ask to be conquered. You conquered them. And there's a good chance that there'll be those that are sympathizers to your cause and be like, oh, this is great. You just liberated us from what we were dealing with before. Okay, sure, we produced for the clan, whatever, no big deal. And then you have others that go, no, I don't like this. I don't want change in my way of life. But in any case, I get the ideal. But I do think Ezra is also jumping to conclusions just as much as Perez is being a bit more aggressive and bold. I wouldn't say that Jaden is completely correct or wrong either. He makes a good point. If he did challenge Perez, everybody who supported Perez, if he were to succeed, would just do reprisal challenges, and he would be stuck in that forever, and that's not good either. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't help the situation on Courchevel. So it's a tightrope to walk, but I do enjoy the progress of the story. In any case, thanks so much for tuning in and stopping by. We'll talk more on future missions, and until next time, take care.